The $1 million skill nobody teaches. What if one skill could change your entire financial life? Not luck, not a degree, not working nonstop. A skill most people hear about, but never master. A skill that decides who gets noticed, who gets paid more, who gets trusted faster, and who turns ordinary work into real opportunity. Finn used to think money was simple. Work hard, earn more, repeat. But after years of trying, something felt wrong. He was working more, but not becoming free. He was improving, but still being overlooked. He was talented, but nobody really saw it. And then he noticed something strange. The people growing fastest were not always the smartest. They were not always the most talented. And they were not always working the hardest. But they had one thing Finn did not. They knew how to make value visible. Most people believe money follows effort, so they try to work harder and harder. They stay late. They say yes to everything. They learn more tools, more apps, more tricks. They hope someone will finally notice them. But effort alone does not always get rewarded, because the world does not pay for effort directly. The world pays for value it can understand. And that is where most people lose. They have value, but they cannot explain it. They have skills, but they cannot package them. They have ideas, but they cannot sell them. So their value stays invisible. And invisible value rarely becomes income. The $1 million skill is not magic. It is not some secret hidden formula. It is knowing how to sell, but not in the way most people think. Selling is not forcing people to buy. Selling is helping people understand value. It is showing why something matters. It is building trust before asking for attention. It is making a problem feel clear and making the solution feel possible. That is selling, and everyone sells, even without realizing it. An employee sells their skills to an employer. A freelancer sells a result to a client. A business sells a solution to a market. A creator sells attention, emotion, and meaning. A founder sells a vision before it exists. A leader sells belief to a team. A teacher sells understanding to students. A designer sells clarity through visuals. A developer sells reliability through working products. A consultant sells a better decision. Even a friend sells an idea during conversation. Selling is everywhere. The only question is whether you do it consciously or whether you let others control your value. Two people can have the same skill, but one earns more because they explain better. Two businesses can sell a similar product, but one wins because people trust it more. Two creators can tell the same story, but one understands how to hold attention. That is why selling is leverage. It multiplies the value you already have. Without it, your work stays small. With it, your work can travel further. It can reach people you never met. It can open doors you never expected. Selling starts with understanding pain, not your product, not your ego, the other person's pain. What are they afraid of? What are they trying to fix? What do they secretly want? What result would make life easier? When you understand that, everything changes, because now you're not begging for money. You are offering a useful transformation. You are not pushing. You are connecting a problem to a solution. That is the heart of selling. Finn used to hate the word selling. To him, it sounded fake. It sounded loud, manipulative, and uncomfortable. So he avoided it. He focused only on getting better at work, more courses, more practice, more late nights. And yes, he improved, but his life did not change much because nobody knew what he could really do. He was waiting to be discovered, but the world was too busy to notice. One day, Finn saw someone less skilled succeed. At first, it made him angry. He thought, I am better than that. But then he looked closer. That person was not pretending. They simply explained their value clearly. They spoke to the real problem. They made people feel understood. And because of that, people trusted them. Finn realized the truth. Skill matters. But visible value matters too. The real money skill has two parts. First, create value. Second, communicate that value clearly. If you only create value, you may stay hidden. If you only communicate but create nothing, you fail. But when both come together, that is when your income can change. That is when people start listening. That is when doors begin to open. And that is why selling is powerful. Money follows problems. Small problems usually create small rewards. Expensive problems create expensive opportunities. If you solve a painful problem, people listen. If you solve an urgent problem, people act. If you solve a repeated problem, people return. And if you solve it at scale, that is where real wealth can begin. Finn started asking a better question, not how can I make more money, but what valuable problem can I solve? Most people never ask that question. They ask, what job can I get? They ask, how much will they pay me? They ask, when is the weekend? But wealthy thinkers ask differently. They ask, what can I build? Who needs this? How can I explain it better? How can this work without me someday? Those questions create a different life. Before people buy, they must pay attention. But attention is harder than ever. Everyone is busy. Everyone is distracted. So your message must be clear. Not clever, not complicated, clear. People do not buy what they cannot understand. They ignore what feels confusing. Finn learned to simplify. One problem, one promise, one next step. That alone made people listen longer. Attention opens the door, but trust lets people walk through. Without trust, selling feels dangerous. With trust, selling feels helpful. Trust comes from honesty, from proof, from consistency, from saying what you can actually do and not pretending to be perfect. Finn stopped trying to sound impressive. He started trying to sound useful. People make decisions emotionally first, then they justify them logically later. That does not mean lying. It means understanding what people truly feel. Fear, frustration, hope, desire, relief. A good seller does not ignore emotion. They give the emotion a clear direction. They show what life could look like after. That is why stories sell so well. Stories let people feel the transformation. Finn began with something simple. He wrote down what he could help with. Then he wrote who needed that help. Then he wrote their biggest frustration. At first his message was too broad. I can help with anything. Nobody understood it, so he made it sharper. I help people solve this specific problem. Suddenly, people started paying attention. Finn did not become a different person overnight. He did not magically become rich, but something important changed. His value became easier to see. His ideas became easier to understand. His conversations became more focused, and his confidence became more grounded. Not loud confidence, quiet confidence, the kind that comes from knowing your value. But Finn learned another lesson too. Earning more does not automatically create freedom, because money without control disappears fast. More income can become more stress if your habits stay the same. So Finn started tracking his money, not to feel guilty, but to understand his patterns. He wanted to see where freedom was leaking, because every dollar had a job now. Some money protected him, some money built skills, some money bought back time, some money started working for the future. That is when Finn saw the real formula. Create value, communicate value, capture value, control value, then reinvest value. That cycle can change a life, not instantly, not without effort, but in a way effort alone never could. Most people sell by talking about themselves, their skills, their features, their experience. But people care about their own problems first. They want to know what changes for them. Will this save me time? Will this reduce my stress? Will this help me earn more? Will this make my life easier? Finn stopped saying, look what I can do. He started saying, here is what changes for you. That small shift changed everything. Another thing changed Finn's thinking. It was not just what he offered. It was how he positioned it. A cheap service feels risky. A clear solution feels valuable. The same skill can be priced differently, depending on the problem it solves. Design is not just design. It can increase trust. Writing is not just writing. It can move people to act. Code is not just code. It can save a business time and money. Positioning changes how value is seen. Still, Finn was afraid of selling. He was afraid of rejection, afraid of sounding desperate, afraid people would judge him. But then he understood something important. Rejection is not proof you're worthless. It is information. Maybe the problem was wrong. Maybe the message was unclear. Maybe the timing was bad. Maybe that person was not the right customer. Selling teaches you through feedback, if you are willing to listen. Finn stopped trying to convince everyone. He started looking for the right people, people with the exact problem he understood. Then selling felt different. It felt like a conversation, not a performance, not a battle, a conversation about a real problem and a possible better future. Finn built his selling around 4 questions. Who am I helping? What painful problem do they have? What result do they want? Why should they trust me? Simple questions, but most people never answer them clearly. They skip straight to promotion and wonder why nobody cares. Finn stopped promoting before understanding. He listened first, then he spoke. For creators, this skill is everything. A video is not just content, it is a promise to the viewer. Give me your attention, and I will give you something valuable. If the promise is weak, people leave. If the promise is clear, people stay. That is selling too. Every title sells the next click. Every opening sells the next minute. Every story sells the final idea. For employees, selling is not optional either. Your work does not always speak for itself. Sometimes you must explain the impact. What did you improve? What problem did you remove? What time did you save? What value did you create? If you cannot explain it, others may miss it. Finn learned to document his wins, not to brag, to make his value understandable. For business, selling is survival. A good product is not enough. People must know why it matters. They must feel the problem. They must believe the solution works, and they must trust the person behind it. That is why brands are powerful. A brand is trust at scale. A clear message is trust made simple. Without this skill, people hit an invisible ceiling. They can be good, but underpaid, helpful, but unnoticed, smart, but not trusted, busy, but not growing. That ceiling is not always talent. Sometimes the ceiling is communication. Sometimes it is positioning. Sometimes it is fear of being visible. The $1,000,000 skill breaks that ceiling, but selling must be used carefully, because selling without values becomes manipulation, and manipulation destroys trust. Real selling should help both sides win. The customer gets a real solution. The creator gets rewarded for value. That is healthy selling, not pressure, not fake urgency, not pretending a product solves everything. Just honest value, clearly communicated. Month by month, Finn changed. He still worked hard, but now his work had direction. He still learned new skills, but now he connected them to problems. He still wanted more income, but now he wanted more leverage too. He stopped asking only, how much can I earn? He started asking, how much value can I create? And how clearly can I communicate it? This is bigger than sales. It is a way of seeing money. Money is not only something you chase. Money is a signal that value moved somewhere. If you create value, you become useful. If you communicate value, you become visible. If you control money, you become stable. If you invest wisely in yourself, you grow. That is the path Finn began walking. So here is the question for you. What value can you create? Who needs that value most? What painful problem can you solve? How can you explain it simply? What proof can you build? How can you become easier to trust? And how can you manage the money that follows? Because earning is only the first step. Keeping control is the second. Building freedom is the long game. The $1,000,000 skill is not just selling. It is creating value people truly need, then making that value impossible to ignore. It is clarity. It is trust. It is understanding people. It is solving problems that matter and explaining solutions in a way people feel. Finn once thought wealth came from working harder. Now he understands something deeper. Hard work matters, but visible value changes everything, because money does not follow effort alone. Money follows value people understand and trust. So do not just become better. Become clearer, become more useful, become easier to trust, and learn how to communicate what you bring. That skill can change your work. It can change your income. It can change your confidence. And slowly, it can change your life. Because freedom does not come from being busy. It comes from building value with direction and making your money work with purpose. That is what Finn finally understood. The world rewards value. But first, the world has to see it. So learn the skill most people avoid. Learn to create, learn to explain, learn to sell with honesty, Learn to manage what you earn, and little by little, build your freedom. Not overnight, not by pretending, but by becoming truly valuable and making that value clear to the world. That is the $1,000,000 skill. And it is not reserved for someone else. It is something you can start learning today. One problem, one person, one clear message, one step closer to financial freedom.